Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I'm Mary Price. I'm the Events and Marketing Director at the Shingo Institute at Utah State University. I'm excited to have Emily Swanee with us today. Emily is the Senior Director in the Lean Promotion Office at Ohio Health. She has a degree in Operations Management and Marketing and has over 13 years experience leading process improvement initiatives in healthcare. We published an article in our newsletter earlier this month. It's titled Unlocking the Power of Every Individual. This article complements the topic we're discussing today. That article can be found on our website. Simply go to shingo.org, click the media tab, and select the blog. You'll find the article there. And I would encourage you to read this when you have a few moments to spare. As a reminder, all of our monthly webinars can be found on our Shingo YouTube channel. You can access that from our website as well. It's under the media tab and just click videos. And with that, Emily, I'll turn the time over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here with you all today to talk about how we've utilized the Shingo model here at Ohio Health and really allowed it to help build and influence our management system in a way to where we really can unlock the power of every individual. So before I jump in, I just want to provide a little bit of context around Ohio Health in case you're not familiar with who we are. We are a not-for-profit healthcare system based out of Columbus, Ohio, though we do span a 47-county area, so we're spread out pretty far there. We have a total of 15 hospitals in our system. We have over 200 ambulatory sites. We have freestanding emergency departments. We have home health. We have hospice. And in total, we're looking at about 35,000 members in the Ohio Health family. So giving that background on Ohio Health, I also want to provide a little bit of background on our lean journey here at Ohio Health. So really in terms of healthcare, I would say we were pretty early adopters of having a continuous improvement team here. We started our journey in 2006. And at the time, our team's focus really was on removing waste from the organization. So most often that really came through as we were trying to remove financial waste from the organization. And we had our team primarily acting as project managers on some of these large cost savings initiatives for the system. So we did that for about 10 years. And then fast forward to 2016, at that time, we hired in a vice president into our organization who had a significant amount of lean experience. He brought with him the Shingo model, which really excited our team specifically because we loved, first off, it just made sense. And second off, it really put the person at the center of the whole model. How can we really empower our people to be problem solvers? So instantly that became our team's primary responsibility and focus was creating a culture of 35,000 problem solvers. And we got really excited about this focus because who can't get behind that? But then we realized there's actually a really big challenge in front of us, right? So we have a team of 11 people that are ultimately trying to influence developing a culture of 35,000 problem solvers. So for us, that meant that we actually needed to be really strategic, right? We may no longer be able to be out there in each of the departments solving their problems for them. But what we love is it forced us to actually be really creative, right? So how can we actually, instead of being out there solving their problems for them, how can we equip and empower our people to really feel confident and capable that they can solve these problems themselves? And so with those 35,000 people, we recognize that Ohio Health and really everywhere, our people are our greatest asset, right? And so these are 35,000 subject matter experts who deeply know the ins and outs of their business. And when we want to focus on unlocking the power of each of these individuals, we looked at the Shingo model, and the Shingo model really tells us that we need to have that common core purpose. And for us within healthcare, that's actually pretty easy, right? Because who can't get behind improving the health of those we serve? And that's our mission here at Ohio Health. Our vision at Ohio Health is to provide exceptional care for all through experiences that earn a lifetime of trust. So when you put our mission and our vision together, this creates a really clear common purpose that every one of our associates here at Ohio Health can get behind. So while this was great, we have the associates, we have the people, they're all, moving toward the same common purpose. But for us to really be successful in unlocking the power of each one of these individuals, we knew that we were missing the system in place to allow that to be effective. So what were the tools, structure, processes, and behaviors that we need to build to really set our system up for success? So this quickly became our team's job, right? In the lead promotion office, we then became focused on developing this comprehensive management system that really was going to focus on developing all 35,000 of these individuals to be problem solvers toward that same common purpose. So when we focus on unlocking the power of every individual, we looked at Shingo as our true north, right? And so if this is our model, we want to use this to really guide our journey in developing this management system that allows us to keep the person at the center of the model. And so for us at Ohio Health, we landed on 6 key roles that we needed every associate to have. We needed every associate to know the why. We need every associate to be supported and empowered. We need them all to encounter continuous improvement principles out there in their work. They need to have a set of continuous improvement tools available at their disposal, and they need to understand how and when to use these continuous improvement tools. And then lastly, they also need to have clarity on what is their role specifically in driving organizational progress forward. And so while we were really excited that we've kind of set forward the path of how we can unlock the power of every individual, there's a really big challenge in front of us still, because we can't do that without the organization playing a really heavy role in making that happen. So I'm going to pivot now and talk about the role our organization had in actually activating this. So if we're focused on every individual knowing the why, and we want to start basic, right? So at the highest level, we need to provide a clear mission and vision statement that clearly helps our associates understand what is the purpose of their everyday. And so while that sounds basic and that sounds simple, I think it's critically important to start with that why at the highest level of the organization. And then if you take that and you really kind of go all the way to the opposite extreme, and we want our associates to know the why, how can we really focus on keeping them informed and helping them understand what is the why or what is the purpose behind every decision that's made? And for us, we do that through timely and transparent communication. We have every year, once a year, we do an associate engagement survey. And when we did our most recent associate engagement survey, we found that associates who responded favorably to the question, "My manager communicated the reasons for business decisions," were 2.4 times more likely to respond favorably to "My manager cares about me as a person." If our goal is to respect every individual, then we need every individual to understand the why. So we start there. Next, we move to supported and empowered. And if our goal is wanting every individual to be supported and empowered, we recognize that we needed to begin with leadership. For us specifically at Ohio Health, we focused on how do we develop leaders, not managers, right? So anybody can do the tasks, but how can they do them in a way that's most effective and in a way that empowers and supports their people? So we started by outlining 10 clear leadership principles at Ohio Health that we expect of our leaders. Then we took that a step further and said, not only do we have 10 clear leadership principles that we expect, but we're actually going to go deeper and even highlight what are the specific behaviors that we want to see exhibited within each of those principles. Of course, we took it one more step further, and you'll see we have a leader behavior assessment tool that we've developed as well. So this is a self-assessment tool that we provide to all of our leaders, and it outlines on it the clear leadership principles, which many of those were influenced by Shingo, and the clear behaviors that we expect to see within each of those principles. Our leaders then can take this tool and can actually do a self-assessment, and they can go through each of these categories, and they can highlight specifically where they feel they're meeting the behaviors and the principles and where they might have opportunities to improve. They then take this tool and they bring this tool to their leaders, to their one-up, and they have a conversation with their leaders around where they see opportunities for their improvement, which then feeds right into their development plan. So the whole goal of this is really being very clear with our leaders, and we are focused on developing you not just in the day-to-day skills and the tasks that are out there, but we really want to focus on developing you as a leader of people as well. And then also in terms of supporting and empowering our people, if we want to focus on developing leaders, not managers, we also want to provide them with a significant amount of opportunities where they can practice these behaviors through intentional check-ins. So this could be anything as basic as monthly one-on-one meetings with leaders and their direct reports, which occur monthly here at Ohio Health, or it could be something as structured as tiered huddles. And so at Ohio Health, we have tiered huddles that occur every day. There are 5 layers of huddles or 5 tiers, and it starts with the front line. And this is where we show up and we want to support and empower the front line. And we ask them, are there any potential safety concerns that you have? Are there any escalations that you have that I, as your leader, cannot solve? If there are any things that cannot be solved at that first tier, those then get escalated to the second tier, whether that is something that they need support on, or it's something that we need to spread for awareness for the rest of the organization. So items continue to get escalated up through the tiers, all the way up through tier 5. And through that process, we are asking our associates, hey, we are here for you. We want to know what potential safety concerns you have, right? So they're supported, they're empowered to share these concerns. And then most importantly within this process is we're actually circling back. So at the end of this, when there is an escalation that has been raised, it's either something that we are going to communicate broadly across the system with what we're doing to mitigate that risk, or we're going to go back to that direct individual and we're going to share, hey, thank you so much for escalating. Here's what happened with that. One of the ways that we provide that circle back is in our daily Gemba walks. So these daily Gemba walks have a couple of purposes. One is to communicate and reiterate, hey, here's what came out of that escalation that made its way to tiered huddle. But also our daily Gemba walks are a time where our leaders go out to every department within the organization every day. They're going out and they're meeting with staff at their KPI board, or their key performance indicator board. These boards are a way in which the teams can show up and really focus on problems that are important to them to solve. So every one of these KPI boards has 3 process-related problems or key performance indicators that the team is focused on solving that day. We've trained our coaches to go out there and to really be present as a coach. How can they encourage and empower those teams in problem solving, rather than showing up and providing them with an answer or saying, did you think of this? Have you tried this? We're really just encouraging them to continue their problem solving on a daily basis. So as we get out there and as we have our leaders showing up at Gemba, as we're encouraging our staff to share via tiered huddles, as we're having monthly one-on-ones, again, our focus is on how do we get out there and allow our staff to feel supported and empowered, that they are able and capable to make changes within their workplace. Next up, we know that every individual must encounter continuous improvement principles. And so for us, we started just broadly with introducing principles into the organization. And so we did some mass trainings where we got out there and we taught all managers and above, and mandatory trainings covering topics such as anything as basic as what is lean. We covered A3s with our leaders. We talked about humble inquiry and even leader behaviors. But we know that training is certainly not the end all be all, and that's just the beginning of the journey. What we found has actually allowed us to be most effective is by thoroughly weaving continuous improvement into the culture. And so I mentioned our KPI boards are where our Gemba walks occur. At Ohio Health, we have over 600 KPI boards across our system, where our frontline staff are all engaging every day with problem solving on a daily basis. We also at any point in time have somewhere between 50 and 100 A3s that are being facilitated out there throughout the system, even that our team may not be involved in or touching. And that's ideal, right? Because that means that we've trained people to effectively lead these problem-solving events independently. We also have Kaizen events that occur across our system. And so last year, our team facilitated 60 Kaizen events across the system, where we're really looking to pull together a cross-functional team of individuals who are experts in the work, who touch the process all the time. And they're really pulling together to address a process that currently is not working today, to fix that process and to implement a new plan in place, and to even actually work toward implementing that process within that week of the Kaizen. And so we found that for us to really be effective, for us to be most effective, we really just need to start using some of the tools out there in a way that's public, in a way that's available to leaders across the system. I would say that if you were to ask leaders across Ohio Health, how many of them have participated in a Kaizen event, probably at least 25% of our leaders, which is a really big number here, right? Probably at least 25% of our leaders have participated in a 3 to 5 day Kaizen event at some point since 2016 when we started them. Next, we recognize that it's really important for every individual to have a set of continuous improvement tools. So this is where it was really critical for our team of 11 to be in lockstep around what are those tools that we recommend for the organization. And you can see here for us, step one is for us to go to Gemba. So we want to get out there before we even start to do any problem solving. We need to seek to understand what really is the current state. And then we have some pretty structured improvement activity, starting with lean daily management, which encompasses the KPI board and Gemba walk and all of the problem solving that occurs around it. We also then kind of tier our problem solving, starting with basic problem solving using a countermeasure, and then intermediate using an A3, and then really our more complex problem solving using some of those structured Kaizen events that I mentioned. And so for us, it's been really important. And one key to success, I would say, is that we have standardized tools. And so no matter what dashboard you're creating a countermeasure for, no matter if you are, frontline or if you are the CEO of Ohio Health, you are using the same countermeasure template across the system. We're using the same A3 tool as a starting point. And this is really important for us to continue to maintain that structure across the system as to here's our approach for problem solving. We also make all of these tools available to all. So we utilize our intranet so it is easily accessible at any point in time. You don't have to have our team there to support facilitation of problem solving. We encourage you to get out there and to actually start it and facilitate it on your own. And we even provide some training to ensure that you can feel competent in order to do that. And then lastly, encouraged by senior leaders. So these are not only tools that we expect our managers, our frontline to use, but these are also things that our senior leaders are held accountable to. Whether it's going out and going on Gemba walks, whether it's utilizing an A3, these are tools that we expect at all levels of the system. Next, we also want to understand, we want every individual to understand how and when to use continuous improvement tools. And so for us, we want them to start by having a clear definition of success. So really, what does good look like for the system so I can then know when to respond when we're not at good, right? And so for us at Ohio Health, we use a balanced scorecard approach. So each of our care sites or our hospitals have a balanced scorecard. We use the same balanced scorecard categories for each of our hospitals. So we have quality, service, culture, and finance are the 4 quadrants that we're focused on. And within each of those 4 quadrants, there's a scoring system from 0 being the lowest to 4 being the highest. And so what we wanted to do then is we wanted to say that's great to know kind of, our balanced scorecard is the numbers that we're ultimately accountable to. But what we wanted to do was take it one step further, and we wanted to develop some leading indicators. So each of our care sites could have a dashboard where they're able to actually predict where they might land in their balanced scorecard. So we partnered with the subject matter experts within each of these quadrants across the system, and we developed a executive dashboard, which consists of anywhere from 5 to 7 leading indicators for each of these quadrants that our executive teams can manage, can track, and can respond to in order to know that they can improve their balanced scorecard results. We then took that and brought that as a primary input into developing department dashboards. So our team partnered with all of the managers out there in the units. We partnered with all of the local subject matter experts within each of those quadrants out at the care sites, and actually developed leading indicators to the care sites executive dashboard, right? And so we're taking now the 5 metrics within quality at the hospital level, and we're now taking that to the department level and saying at the department level, which of these metrics do you connect to? And if you do connect to them, what's a maybe more leading indicator that you can be tracking on your department dashboard to be able to track success and monitor your metrics so you can respond to those when we're maybe off track. From there, then when there's opportunities within the department dashboard, those then can filter into the department KPI board where they're focused on 3 process metrics that they're really trying to improve or 3 key performance indicators. So it's critically important that we start by saying, here's what good looks like. Here is what we are defining as success for our organization. But what's I would say even more important is us being able to provide prompts to the organization as to when are we actually responding to these metrics. It's great to know if we're red or green, but what are we expecting of you if we actually are red and we're not hitting our target? And so for us, we start with at the balanced scorecard. If we are below a 3.0 in any of our quadrants, at that point, that hospital or that care site would develop an A3 around that work. On our executive dashboard, if we're greater than or equal to 2 months of missing target at that point, that triggers a countermeasure. For our department dashboard, if we're greater than or equal to 2 months of missing our target, at that point, they'll consider developing a key performance indicator to plug onto their department KPI board. And on their department KPI board, if they've missed one of their KPIs or one of their key performance indicators, and they found that this is now our third time missing that metric for the same reason, at that point, that prompts a 5 why for our departments to initiate. So you can see here that we've put in a lot of clear structure and rigor around the process so that we're not only tracking the measures and really clear about what we're tracking, but we're also putting in these very clear problem solving prompts that initiate each one of our leaders or staff in their problem solving process. And then lastly, we need our organization to set every individual up for success and allowing them to have clarity on what is their specific role in driving organizational progress. So at Ohio Health, we do this through a few ways. One is just right off the bat, putting it in our job description. What are our clear expectations of ownership within the organizational progress? So yes, we want you to do all of the tasks, but also we want you to have problem solving as part of your job. We need you to be a member in this alongside of all of us as we're moving this organization forward. Next, we have leader standard work, right? And so how do we provide daily, weekly, and monthly tasks for our leaders that really are focused on driving organizational progress? Again, giving them clarity on here's what we expect of you on a daily, weekly, monthly basis as a leader. And then lastly, we have accountabilities. And so how can we actually focus on connecting our accountabilities at all levels of the organization to that progression within our management system? And this is something that we've come a long way in the last year at Ohio Health, and we've actually been able to incorporate quantifiable accountabilities within our hospital presidents' accountabilities around progression of the management system. And I think the ability for us to connect back into our leaders' accountabilities, it's created a really large pool, which is really exciting, right? They're like, we know this is important. We know we need to do this. How can we partner with your team in doing this the right way? And so that it's not leaders owning the progress, but it's leaders encouraging all of their frontline staff to be problem solvers. And so for us at Ohio Health, I've shared our journey had really 6 key steps in us empowering our individuals. And that is allowing them to know the why, allowing them to be supported and empowered, having them encounter continuous improvement principles, have a set of continuous improvement tools at their disposal, and then understand how and when to use those continuous improvement tools. And then lastly, having clarity on what is their specific role in driving organizational progress. So for us, these 6 steps worked really well in our journey, but I challenge you that no matter where you are in your journey, maybe these 6 steps aren't right for you. Ask yourself the question of how you can set every individual up for success by unlocking the power of each of these individuals, starting with sharing with them, why is it they should continuously improve? How can they move forward and continuously improve? And what should they be continuously improving upon? And this time I'll open it up to the questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. That was great. We do have a few questions. The first one is, in your training, what measure did you use to indicate that your training was effective in changing mindsets and behavior of leaders and staff?
That is a good question. I will be honest and say we did not have a metric, but I can tell you informally what we could have used. Right at the same time that we were launching our training, we were also launching our KPI boards across the system. So starting in 2017, we began launching our KPI boards across the system. And we went out to one area kind of as a model cell, literally one department. We launched it and we started talking about that in our trainings. And then we'd have people raise their hand and said, oh, I went to that and that was really cool. And I went that. And I will tell you that doing our training at the same time that we launched our KPI boards created this excitement in that all 600 of our KPI boards here at Ohio Health have been whole. So we've never gone to a department and said, we want you to have a KPI board. They've literally all asked for them after they've gone through these trainings and after they've seen the other KPI boards. And so while we didn't formally have anything, I would say that that actually would be a pretty cool indicator of success.
I agree. Definitely shows engagement. Next question. How did your level of prescription change with how many teams complied with these expectations over the past 7 years while on the Shingo journey?
Yeah, so I would say we've got a little more prescriptive as we've gone along. And I think we learned some serious lessons through COVID. And so we were very prescriptive, really starting in 2016. We went to this kind of rigorous structure of this is the approach, this is the model we're using. We as a lean team will continue to evaluate, is this best practice? And if it is, this is what we want to be prescriptive around. We learned a lot in COVID when we removed some of those guidelines, and we created a lot more flexibility for our staff. And so, for example, again, with the KPI boards, we got pretty loose with them. We said, you know, we prefer you to still go out there on your Gemba walks, use them to check in on your teams, use the KPI boards to share key information around, you know, maybe mask mandates or whatever the latest is going on. And that was really hard to get back on track. So what we saw alongside of that was when we didn't provide that rigor or that prescription, what we saw was the entire system of lean daily management was essentially at stake there. So we had people pulling out the problem solving from lean daily management, which quickly negates the whole intent of it, right? Or we had people that were maybe then saying, you know what, we're going to do the KPI boards, but we're not going to have the Gemba walks where the leaders are coming around and supporting it. And again, you pull one cog out of that wheel and the whole wheel kind of breaks down. So we've learned that the more prescriptive we can be, the better it is. And frankly, the organization has been craving that.
Great, thank you. Next question. Can you share some examples of the measures or how you were holding senior leaders accountable for advancing the management systems?
This is a loaded one, and I'm really proud of how we do it, actually. But we have, in the same way I shared a leader behavior assessment tool, we actually have a management system assessment tool. And so it is actually a tool that highlights the major elements of our management system, and it shows progression. There's different categories of progression within each of those different elements, anywhere from it's not present all the way up through it's ideal. And so you can use that tool to not only provide clear definition to all of our leaders as to what good looks like, but you could also technically turn that into a way to kind of quantify the progress. And so for our hospital presidents, they're held accountable this year to making an improvement, a net improvement in moving up in 3 different categories. And so it's pretty specific to something that we've built. But I will say that having that tool has allowed us to be really successful in not only building it into accountabilities, but also just being clear and articulate with the organization as to here really is what good looks like in terms of a management system, allows them to see where they are in their journey and then to develop their lean roadmap based off of that.
Great, thank you. Another question. Why did you choose Shingo over another model?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that our leader, our vice president that came into the organization, he came in, he brought Shingo with him, and we got quickly on board with it. I'll say that's one of the main reasons we use that instead of something else. It felt logical. It was a lot of the things that we were doing in bits and pieces. And then it was everything that we didn't know we didn't have left to do, right? And so it's really allowed us to kind of guide our journey in our own organization's lean roadmap in a way that feels like there's this holistic approach. I think specifically for us, I would say we previously focused a lot on the continuous improvement bucket of the guiding principles. And then quickly after he joined the organization, we started focusing on what are those cultural enablers and rolling those out through mass training. How do we really teach the behaviors here? How do we put in place some actual processes that reiterate the behaviors we expect? And then the latest part of our journey, which I think has been critical to our management system really progressing to the way it is today, is really that enterprise alignment piece. And so now we've got this system that it really is fully connected and integrated, and everybody knows what's expected of them. Everything is connected all the way from our strategic goals at the highest level of the organization to the front line, as well as our operational goals.
Excellent. What roles attend the daily Gemba walks in specific departments?
Yeah, good question. So every day, the director of the area is out there going to Gemba. So they're daily. And then we've got our executive team operating anywhere from once to twice a week. And so for us, executive team would be like your chief nurse officer of a hospital, your hospital president, your vice president of clinical affairs. And then we have our senior leaders that are held accountable to going out once a month.
Do you use recognition rewards for high achieving continuous improvement activity?
Yeah, we do. So at Ohio Health, we use a program called Inspire. And I would say that it's not necessarily consistent across the board. And so what we'll do with that is when there is a very effective Kaizen event, it's probably the one we use it most frequently for. But typically the process owner of that event will recognize the teams for that work. And then I would say informally, one of the things that we do that works really well for us is we have report outs at the end of our Kaizen, right? So for us, a Kaizen is a week-long activity. We'll have a report out at the end. We will invite the leaders. And I think that the recognition that the leaders, the vice presidents, senior vice presidents provide at the end of those report outs is even more meaningful than some of the behind the scenes recognition that we've tried as well.
Okay, and then last question for today. Have you coupled, how have you handled remote work tools such as Gemba walks?
Yep. So we have a structure in place where we have a remote, or we have a virtual KPI board that's just built in Excel that our teams can use. We use Microsoft Teams, so we have a Teams link. That's the most basic answer that we use most broadly. We also have some really cool technology in place at our freestanding EDs, for example, our freestanding emergency departments, for example, where they're actually using some of their medical computers and that are on wheels, and they'll bring them out and they'll actually talk to one another. So the freestanding emergency departments all participate in each other's Gemba walk using some of that technology as well, which is really cool. But we do try to have the boards physical and in person if we can ever have that be possible.
Awesome. Wonderful. All right. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. Those of you that had questions that we didn't get to, I will go ahead and forward those to Emily and she'll be able to follow up with you directly on them. And thank you again, Emily, for participating today. And thanks to everybody that attended. And we'll see you again next month.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks, Mary.